All right, let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Rucha Kudash. Welcome to another live lesson.
All right.
This is part two. It's not a coincidence, and I had to take a pause for a moment. But we were in Obadiah, the first chapter, which is only one chapter long, verse 7. I'm gonna read that again. It says, "All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee." Why? Because you've been deceiving everybody else. So all these different nations that are in league with you, they're getting tired of getting shafted. They're getting tired of getting the short end of the stick. When it comes to benefits and getting goodies and all that, you get the lion's share of everything, and everybody else gets shit. Including the nations, including your allies. So everybody's tired of you, but the Lord stirring this spirit up, because it's time for you to go down. It's no coincidence. We're in 2026. It's no coincidence. This letter was just brought out. I'm not sure if it was set up today, if it was set up a couple of weeks ago. It's dated January 6, 2026. The year of apostasy, sellouts and agents, but also, there's major cracks in the infrastructure, or the foothold or stronghold that America has on the world. And the people are seeing you for who you really are, because the Lord is making you quite bare, as it says here also in Obadiah. I started verse 6. How are the hidden things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? You're being made bare. I believe that's if I'm not mistaken, that's Jeremiah 49. Right, Jeremiah 49:10. But I have made Esau bare, which this is really what this is talking about. It's not really talking about exposure, even though part of it is, but really the Lord is going to destroy Esau completely. If you have a thief that breaks in, like Elder Pastor has been speaking about, they're not going to take everything. But when the Lord comes, he's going to destroy you completely. Everything that you ever had infrastructure-wise is going to be gone, in 1 hour. But also the Lord, prior to him doing that, he's exposing you. And the prophets are exposing you through the words of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, because that's the first step of your judgment, is to be exposed. Second step of your judgment is to be destroyed. And that's what's coming next. The sentencing part is almost over, and the judgment is about to be, meted out to you. It says, "But I have made Esau bare, I have uncovered his secret places." And this is why everything is coming out. There's all kinds of information coming out on you devils. And one thing that the international bankers, on the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it, prided themselves in and needed to get these agendas in place, was secrecy, total secrecy. But now they're at the point where secrecy doesn't matter anymore, because they're already so deep in that there's nothing anyone could do to stop it. See, the secrecy was needed so that they could set everything, they set their traps, set their plan in motion, and get everything moving. Now that everything is in place, they don't care. This is why they got incompetent individuals like Biden and Trump in there, making moves and not hiding it anymore. Back then they were more diplomatic. They were more, clandestine with it. They still had the same motives, the same agenda, but they were more, more clandestine with it. Like I said, the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. But now they're just coming straight out and telling you what they're going to do. They're not hiding it anymore. Bottom line is it's late in the game, and Esau is ready to, he wants to eat. Esau wants to eat. And that's what's going to destroy him, his greed. And when he gets ready to start really eating like he wants to, that's when the Lord's going to take his monkey ass out. And good riddance. So it says, okay, so that's the main point. So let's go back to Obadiah. Right? 1 and 7. It says, all the men of that confederacy have brought thee even to the border. Now I want to read it in the NIV. All your allies will force you to the border. Basically, you get your walking papers. What did that lady say? I believe she was the Prime Minister of Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. Matter of fact, let me look over here. No, it's Prime Minister Frederiksen. Who was it? Okay, let me see something. Let me ask here. Who is the Prime Minister of Denmark? The current Prime Minister of Denmark is Mette Frederiksen. Okay, yep, so that's it. It's got to be her. She is serving in that role since June 2019, leading the Danish government and coalition, including the Social Democratic Party. Did she say if America invades Greenland, that is the end of NATO? Yes, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen recently did say that if the United States were to attack or invade Greenland, it would effectively spell the end of NATO. She made these remarks in response to renewed comments by U.S. President Donald Trump about wanting Greenland to come under U.S. control, including suggestions he might consider military force. What did Pete Hegseth say? We will have peace through war. Did Pete Hegseth say we will get peace through strength? Yes, Pete Hegseth has explicitly used the phrase peace through strength in describing U.S. defense policy and said it would be a guiding principle of his leadership as a U.S. Secretary of Defense, formerly called the Department of War in current news coverage. And it is now called the Department of War. They changed it. At his confirmation in his speech in speeches, Hegseth has framed the U.S. military's mission around the idea that peace is achieved by being strong and deterring adversaries, a concept historically associated with Ronald Reagan. In his Senate testimony and other remarks, he said the Defense Department will pursue peace through strength as a central goal, emphasizing rebuilding the military, restoring deterrence, and preparing forces so war is less likely. No, but strength is what? Power, military, war. In speeches to allies and defense audiences, he reiterated that the peace through strength approach underpins strategy in regions like the Indo-Pacific and reinforces deterrence against adversaries. So yes, he said or affirmed the idea that peace through strength will be part of U.S. defense policy under his leadership. So pretty much you see what's going on. So she said that Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, she said if United States were to attack or invade Greenland, it would spell the end of NATO. So let's go real quick to Daniel 7. You got to understand, this beast. Daniel 7:7. After this, I saw in the night visions, and behold, the fourth beast. This fourth beast represents the Roman Empire. America happens to be the last leg of the Roman Empire. Dreadful and terrible. See? Why? Because of their military. That's why it says no one was able to make war with the beast. And who's the beast? The EU and NATO, which America is a major part in that beast system, because they have the strongest military. And this is why no one is able to come against them, because of that military that they have. And like the guy from Call for an Uprising said, right? He said, how is it that U.S. went up in there, no casualties, nothing going on? All the militaries that they have in Venezuela, all of the militias they have, and they went in there, and there was nothing, no resistance. He said Russia, China, Iran, no one came to the aid of Venezuela, none of that, which makes sense because it's all a psyop, and we've been saying that, and the elder Yashua has been saying that a lot. I believe everything is a psyop, and I have the same mentality. Every time I see something, all right, what now? What? To me, it's all bullshit. It's all put together, badly put together, nonsense that they're doing to achieve their goals. To me, it's all bullshit. It says they're strong exceedingly, and they are strong exceedingly. Why? Because of their military. This is why the Roman Empire was compared to what? Iron, which is the strongest metal. Out of gold, silver, and brass, iron is the strongest. It might not be the most polished, it might not be extravagant, but it is the strongest out of all those metals. And it had great iron teeth. And what are the great iron teeth? This is their military might. It devoured and break in pieces. Matter of fact, let's look up this word devoured. And then I may look it up in the NLT. It devoured. The word there is akal, means to eat. That's what they're doing. They're eating. So the dragon is eating up the resources of the world, eating up the nations, and eating up their own allies. And their allies are tired of this shit. Akal, to eat, devour, to eat of beasts, to devour, eat their pieces, in a phrase that is slander them. So to eat, to devour. All right. So it says, and it had great iron teeth. It devoureth and break in pieces and stamp the residue with the feet of it. Right. And that's how they're doing it with their military. They devoured, they stamped the residue with the feet of it, meaning they make you, come up under the orders of the American government, the American empire. And if you don't, then there's hell to be paid. There was a meme somebody put together years ago and on top of it, it says, if you don't come to democracy, then they had this big plane dropping bombs at the bottom of it. On the bottom of the thing, it said, it will come to you. Basically, what Pete Hegseth said, we will have peace through strength. It says, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, right? Because of the way that it was established as far as rulership was concerned. That goes into a whole different topic. Not a whole different topic, but a whole different point. And it had 10 horns. The 10 horns are the 10 European Union, which used to be called the European Economic Community. All right. And that would be Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands. Those are the 6 major ones at the beginning. Then you had Denmark and the UK, which also Ireland is a part of it. There's 3, but it's really 2 because the UK and Ireland are 1. Because Ireland used to be a part of the UK, at one point. That was the first one was 1957, those 6. The next 2, they say 3, but it was really 2, 1973. And then Greece, Spain, and Portugal, which is really also 2, 1981, and then 1986. So Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Denmark, UK, and Ireland, which is 1. Greece, Spain, and Portugal, which is really 1 also. So that's 10 altogether. It's 12, but it's really 10. That's where you have 12 stars on the flag of the EU, because it represents their original members, which was really 10 altogether, according to prophecy. Okay. So that's what they're doing. What they're doing. It says, I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn. Who was this little horn? This was America that came up in here. In Daniel 7, it doesn't really go into hints as to how this little horn came up. But then when you go to Revelation 13, it tells you that this particular head, which was the 6th head, which was the Roman Empire, was wounded, as it were, to death. And then, it came back through America. when you read Revelation further down into Revelation 13. It came back as America. And as America, it would be known as the revival of the ancient Roman Empire. You know, as America being the head, America would be like Rome to the rest of the allies, the so-called European allies over on that side of the world. All right. And they're tired of the America shit. It says, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. We went into that yesterday, I believe, which are the three so-called European nations that had a foothold here in America prior to, you know, the so-called Americans getting it, Edomite Americans, you know, which was Spain, Britain, and France. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. And that's what's happening. They have a mouth speaking great things. They blaspheme the Most High, Yahweh, you know, the angels, the Israelites, you know, and they speak great things because they're just popping off. I mean, they're just puffing at everybody because of their military might. And since they're losing their influence, you know, militarily, I'm sorry, since they're losing their influence financially, they're going about it in a hostile military action. And that's why nations now, they're preparing for America to come to them next. This is why, you know, the Prime Minister of Denmark, along with other members of NATO, said if America, pretty much that America can't do what they want to do and take Greenland over militarily, because that's not a part of the agreement. And that will go against the agreement that they signed, you know, in the NATO, NATO pact, or back in 1951 between, I believe that was between America and Denmark. Let me see something. Let's see. The United States is an essential partner in this endeavor as a NATO ally, and through the defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States. Defense agreement. Copy. Here's a summary of 1951 defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States, officially titled the Agreement Concerning the Defense of Greenland, including its purposes and key points. What the 1951 agreement is, it is a bilateral defense, meaning two parties, two parties involved. The treaty signed on 27 April 1951 in Copenhagen between the United States and the Kingdom of Denmark. Its purpose was to strengthen collective defense in the North Atlantic region under NATO. So America was supposed to help NATO and Denmark, you know, protect Greenland. Now America wants to go and militarily take it over, specifically focusing on the defense of Greenland, which is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Why it was signed, both countries were parties to the North Atlantic Treaty, NATO organization, and agreed to contribute to the defense and security of the North Atlantic area. The U.S. was asked to help provide military defense capabilities that Denmark could not establish and operate on its own due to Greenland's remote location and strategic importance. All right, and you know, you could find out the rest of it. So in brief, 1951 defense agreement formalized cooperation between Denmark and the U.S. for the defense of Greenland under NATO auspices, allowing the U.S. to help establish and operate defense facilities, affirming Denmark's sovereignty, not to go in there and take it over militarily. And that's why these nations are pissed. Let me get rid of this. So going back to Daniel 7 and 7, this is the 8, this is NLT. As I was looking at the horns, suddenly another small horn appeared among them. 3 of the first horns were torn out by the roots to make room for it. Yeah, this is pretty good translation. This little horn had eyes like human eyes and a mouth that was boasting arrogantly, and that's Trump, you know, which is America in general. But why can they boast? Because of the military might. Like you have a dude out there, right, that pops off because he got a piece on him. But when he's caught off guard without that piece on him, he ain't got no mouth. You know, he's very very quiet. But when he got that peace on him, that peace gives him courage. So America, their military gives them that courage. That military courage to just do whatever the hell they want to do, and they're spiraling out of control. That's that perverse spirit that the Lord has mingled in the midst of Babylon too. It's part of it. So let's see what else we got here. Verse 19. Then I would know the truth of the fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, exceeding dreadful. Right. Let me see. Look up this word dreadful. Let's see if it has anything to do. Dreadful, the word is dechal, to fear. Yeah, to fear. Terrible. See? To cause to be afraid, make afraid. So they're terrible. I mean, when people heard, like back then, when these nations heard that the Roman armies were coming for them, they was nervous. Just like now, these nations are preparing, for America to invade them next. They still have a fear because of the military might that America has, but they're not, scared of America like they used to be. So NLT says, then I wanted to know the true meaning of the fourth beast, the one so different from the others and so terrifying it had devoured and crushed its victims with iron teeth and bronze claws, trampling their remains beneath his feet. Damn. All right, so it says, and of the 10 horns that were in his head, and of the other which came up, which is America, the 10 horns of the EU, and before whom 3 fell. We've already talked about that. Even of that horn that had eyes, America, and a mouth that spake very great things, whose look was more stout than his fellows. And this is what's causing them to turn against this devil. That great arrogancy, the great American arrogancy that they have. The word there is rob, which means to be exalted, great figurative of power. And what do they do with that power? They're pretty much boasting and pushing towards these or puffing at these nations, which are they supposed to be their allies. Let's go to stout. Definition of a person somewhat fat or of heavy build, of an object strong and thick. See, of an act, quality, or person brave and determined. Yeah, so they're determined to do what? To put hell on these nations, including even their own allies. Okay, so let's go back. And that's pretty much the main point right there. All right, so let's go from there. I got a couple more precepts and then we could close out. Let's go to Isaiah 19. Because when we go to where were we at before that? Obadiah, right? I'll go back here. Obadiah 1 and 7. All the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in them. Right. And this is what we see happening. The wound is being laid because America must and will go down. Muzzle war, net trap, meaning dubious. Shall I not in that day, say of the Lord, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of the mount of Esau? Right. So your understanding, your ability to be able to deceive the people, and to be able to come up with solutions to maintain a so-called friendly environment, a friendly relationship with your allies is breaking down because the Lord is systematically breaking you down. And Trump is the example that the Lord is using to have this place spiral out of control. So let's go from there to Isaiah 19 and 11. Surely the princes of Zoan are fools, right? Because the princes of Zoan, which this is dealing with America, but there were actual princes of Zoan, which were wise men, which were in Egypt, but America is the modern day Egypt, pursuant to Revelation 11 and 8, So these princes of Zoan were known for for being wise, just like the Chaldeans during the Babylonian Empire was supposed to be the wise men, just like the Magi's during the time of the Egyptian Empire were known as the wise men. All right. So now your wise men have become what? Fools. The counsel of the wise counselors of Pharaoh is become brutish. Yeah, because you don't have the answer that you once had. Because this is why, since you can't have the influence or manipulation over people anymore economically, you use brute force, and that's what a guy that has all brawn and no brain does. They rely on their strength, because their mental capacity is not, up to par. It's not. It's worthless. So they rely on that brute strength, and that brute strength is going to take you out. How say ye unto Pharaoh, I am the son of the wise, the son of ancient kings, and no one's going to be able to stand up to save you. Consult now with your counselors and your wizards and your warlocks and the monthly prognosticators. You're not going to be able to prosper. There's nothing that they can do. There's no solution that they can come up with to keep you going. You're only going to go as far as the Lord allows you to. Scriptures say that, seeing his days are determined, the number of his months are with thee, thou has appointed his bounds that he cannot stand. So you can't go beyond what the Lord already established, border-wise and time-wise. It says, where are they? Where are thy wise men? So where are your wise men? Why is it that you are resorting to such brute force when at once you had diplomatic abilities? You had, something to negotiate with. But now that your resources are depleted, your dollar ain't what it used to be, because you keep printing money to keep it afloat, to make it seem like it's still in control. You have nothing. You have nothing to bargain with. So the only thing you could bargain with, or the only thing you could do, is what? Show brute force through your military, because that's the only thing that you have, to be able to maintain that number one status on the planet. But empires come and empires go. Empires rise and empires fall. And we're at the time of your fall. And there's no coincidence that 2026 is July 4th is the 250th year of the American Empire. Finish, finito, se acabó. The Lord broke your scepter. He destroyed it. He took this is why it says in Isaiah 47, come sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. There is no throne. It's over. You ran your course. And now it's time to pay the piper. And let them tell thee now. And let them know what the Lord Yahweh Shai of hosts had purpose upon Egypt. And your wise men can't tell you what's coming. We're telling you what's coming. We're telling you that America is going to be destroyed. But you ain't trying to hear us, because we ain't got no status in this society. So you look to your wise men, these different people that get together, these think tanks, that try to come up with solutions, these so-called smart individuals, rocket scientists. No one's going to be able to help you, man. You're cooked. The princes of Zoan have become fools. The princes of Noph are deceived. They have also seduced Egypt, even they that are the stay of the tribes thereof. And even you Israelites here, and you mingle people out here, you all deceived. You're thinking that America is the way to go. This is why the nations come here to America. This is why everybody comes here, because they want a better life. But it's all a facade. It's all fake. It's all make-believe. The Lord hath mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof. And this is why everything is falling, faltering, failing, because you're at the end of your rope. It's time for you to go, and good riddance. As a drunken man staggereth in his vomit, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which head or tail, branch or rush may do. Yeah, which shows you're at the end of your rope. Just like you have companies, corporations out there that, when people stop buying their products, what happens? Eventually they lose money and they have to close up shop, going out of business. So America is going out of business. I remember we used to say that years ago. America has a pretty much a closeout sale right now. You know, it's a fire sale, and they're desperate to keep that world AAA world credit, military, or should I say, economic power over the earth, and it's not going to work because you run your course and you're at the end of your rope, and the Lord's about to snatch the little bit of rope you have left from you. All that we're waiting for is for you to make that move on the MOTB, which is the micro CHIP, and all bets are off after that. Then you're going to start seeing stuff moving lightning fast. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.